Hello and welcome to the Career Changers. Our guest today is Scott Johnson, Managing Director of the Proper Blokes Club. In Scott's words, the Proper Blokes Club started in September 2020 with a simple Facebook page. It showed videos of me walking around my favorite local spots, talking about the issues I've had in the past and seeing if any local lads could resonate with how I was feeling and hopefully get something out of it. It reminded me that I was not alone in this struggle. After a couple of months and a break in lockdown, we were allowed to meet in groups. So I decided to put the word out on the local Facebook groups to see if anyone would like to join me on a walk and talk. One lad turned up and it's grown weekly since. At this point, we currently have 3 locations, which are in Southwark, Greenwich, and Wallington in London, and we are still growing. The quick growth of the group has shown me that this is something that is really needed in all communities. Today, Scott is going to talk about his career, his mission with the Proper Blocks Club, and the importance of mental health for men. Hi, Scott. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, how did you start your professional life? Or better, what was your first job?
My actual first job, I was working in a place called Woolworths, which is a retail store, selling I don't know, CDs and DVDs, games, and sort of homeware things and stuff like that. So that was I went and done quite a few retail jobs when I left school for the first between 16 and 18. I would have thought.
And what was your dream job when you were a child?
Um, I wanted to be a pilot at one point. That was a real ambition at one point, but then I realised I didn't get the grades in school to even get near to that at the time. So that sort of faded away. But hopefully, one day I might be able to do some lessons. That would be a dream.
Hmm. So, what is your educational background?
Funny enough, my education background was quite tough in school. I done some GCSEs, got some really low grades from them, but and I tried out college for a little while, and it just wasn't for me. The educational environment for me was quite tough because I feel that it wasn't sort of catering for sort of my ambition at the time. I couldn't get that sort of one-to-one support that I probably needed, which a lot of young people actually get now. But at the time, it was quite difficult to get because I feel like education was very much a blanket approach in terms of how they taught people. So they weren't catering for loads of different types of learning styles, just for the one.
Hmm. So, after your first job, what happened to your career? What have been the highlights for you professionally?
Was yeah, so I had a bit of a situation when I was sort of let go from my last retail job because I had to make a decision which path I was going to go down in terms of was I going to continue to go down sort of like the dead end route of just job after job with no purpose, or was I going to find a career? And it was around 18, 19, which I had a real passion for football, and I started to train up as a football coach. And then I got my first job down at Millwall Football Club, coaching some of the young kids down there. And then that basically started my career in football for the last 15 years up to the present day. Um, and there's been some amazing highlights along the way, working with some professional clubs, Crystal Palace, Millwall Football Club, and Chelsea, and gaining my B license as well, which is quite a high qualification within football. Yeah, it's been a real sort of eye opener. They're doing these courses and the stuff that I've learned over the years.
Mhm. So, how did finding a job that you like change the way you were feeling about yourself?
Massively, because I wasn't waking up in the morning feeling, oh, I have to go to work. It wasn't a case of, I didn't see it as a job at the beginning. It was very much a passion. So I was in a real ideal scenario that I was being paid for something I loved to be involved in. So in terms of sort of my mentality at the time, prior to starting that sort of work was very much I couldn't really be bothered to do that type of work, and I was sort of just waiting for the weekends and things like that. But once I started the new my new career and my new purpose, I couldn't wait for the mornings to go and do my work. So finding a real purpose helped me a lot at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing feel to have when you're not
Definitely.
heading the next day.
Yeah, definitely.
So how and when did you start thinking about the Proper Blocks Club, and what was the first catalyst for this thought?
Well, I started thinking about it sort of during lockdown when I didn't have any work at the time. I lost all my work because obviously I was coaching, so it was very much face to face sort of thing. But prior to that, I'd been through my own sort of troubles throughout the years with relationship with my children and things like that, and in and out of court cases regarding children when a relationship broke down and stuff like that, and had it strain over me over the years. And work very much blocked out those feelings. So it was a case of I was going to work and then I would go to sleep and I'll repeat. I didn't have time to think about those issues. But once lockdown happened, you have nothing but yourself. So them thoughts are just constant on your mind. So I had to be proactive about dealing with it. So I got some support from the NHS, and I got some really good support from the counsellors there. But it was only for a very short period of time. So once I finished that, I needed to find a way to sustain that feeling long term. And the link between exercise and mental health is very much well known. So I needed to find an exercise for me that was sustainable on a daily basis. And walking was really good for me. I really love walking, long walks, especially during lockdown. I had a lot of time on my hands, obviously, so I could go on longer walks. And then I basically started. I started the page up on Facebook, and I started doing video diaries of my walks that I was doing and how it was helping me, and trying to resonate with any other lads that might be feeling, or men feeling how I was feeling. And it had a really good reception. And then we got to a point in lockdowns where there was a gap. And then, like you said in the first part of the video, that one person turned up to the first ever walk that I'd done, and I guess the rest is history to a certain degree. It's gone from strength to strength. So that was the birth of the idea, and it seems to have resonated with a lot of people as well.
Mm. So each of us, with our choices, can have a positive impact in the world. How do you feel the Proper Blocks Club is making the world a better place?
Um, one of the key things that I've found, and I didn't realize it at the very beginning when I started because it wasn't part of what I was doing. It was just about helping the lad next door to a certain degree. But it shows you that different people from different races, religions, work, whatever it may be, can all come together and really support each other on a common cause and really get. I've made some of the best friends like that are going to be with me throughout life now through this group, and I feel it's a real great group of a melting pot of different types of people coming together. And I think this is something obviously where I want to replicate it, not just London or UK based, but potentially globally one day. You never know, and that's a real good model for how people can get on with other people, regardless of what you look like or where you come from.
Yeah, well, it seems an amazing idea, and I'm
Mm,
sure so many people are benefiting of your initiative.
yeah.
So, in your experience, you experience this on yourself, but also through the walks, you have
Mm,
the possibility to share thoughts with other men. What are the
yeah.
most common challenges men face with their mental health?
Um, one of the most common things that I think I've sort of realised throughout, especially starting at the very beginning, is that it's a lot of work related stress. People are now being pushed beyond what they're physically capable of, and I think a lot of employers are using their employees as very much disposable. So once they're on burnout mode, they go and it's another line of somebody else coming in. So I would say that's probably the most common route to any sort of stress or anxiety or depressive thoughts that I've seen so far within the lads that I work with. It's very much work related stress.
Mm. Is
Mm.
it true that it's more difficult for men to find support? And if yes, why?
Um, well, the funny thing is the support's out there. I think it's just it's just a generational thing. I think there's a lot of people that have been brought up in a way that men should be men. They're the breadwinners of the family. They shouldn't worry about things. They need to man up, and they don't feel any sorts of stress. But that's slowly changing as the next generation comes through, and I think the next couple of generations it should have wiped itself out, because we should be in a situation where we're comfortable about chatting about how we're feeling and stuff like that. But I think that the root cause of why lads ain't reaching out is pretty much a generational thing, and that fear of being judged as well, and coming across as a weaker man. Which, funny enough, coming out as a man to say you are feeling stressed or you are feeling anxious, actually it's a power in a sense, because you're not really caring about what other people think no more. You're putting yourself first, and you're pushing forward of how you want to be, rather than worrying about what other people think of you.
Mm. So, if anyone is listening to you and is curious about joining one of the groups,
Yeah.
What would you say to them? First of all, I think maybe someone may be hesitant.
Mm.
How does it work?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because I would always say, if you ever have that feeling of you need some support, and or you've seen a picture of ours we put up on social media and you think, yes, I want to try it, I would say put it down in your diary, tell someone else about it so they remind you, and just really just come down and try out. And the great thing about this is you just turn up. If it isn't for you, you don't need to come back no more. You know what I mean? So there's no pressure in staying. There's no pressure in going. It's a real no pressure, safe environment for lads to come down whenever they want. But if any lads that are in need of more complex support, I'll definitely say reach out to the NHS or the specific service or whatever they're in. So if it might be a drink problem or a drug problem or whatever it may be, there are professional organisations out there that can deal with that and support you straight away.
Mm. So if anyone would like to find more information about the Proper Blocks Club,
Yeah.
or if they would like to reach out to you, where they
Yeah.
can find you?
Yeah, so we're all over all social media platforms. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we're on them. Obviously, we've got our website and obviously our email and stuff on that. I would say just Google the Proper Blokes Club on Google. You'll get the list of every one of our outlets. So you can call us, text us, email us, message us on any of those forums, and we'll get back to you within that same day as well, because we know that time's a priority when it comes down to a lad reaching out to something like this, because the moment they've sent that send button that they're interested in coming, more than likely they're talking themselves out of coming straight away. So that's important that we grab hold of it. So we always reply within the first 24 hours of them sending any messages to us.
Mm. So I guess while you're doing these walks, there are probably moments where, deep thoughts or emotional shares, but also probably there may be funny moments. Do you have any interesting or funny stories about the walking groups?
Obviously, a lot about what we talk about in the groups is confidential to the groups, but there is one scenario which is quite a funny one that he wouldn't mind me telling, which is, it isn't that funny, I guess, but in hindsight, it is a little bit. He came to the walk in his van one time, and he parked a little bit away from us. But he said to his partner that he was coming down to the walk, because she eventually pushed him into coming down and getting involved in it. And then he went home that night and she said to him, "How was the walk?" And he said, "Yeah, it was fine, had a great time and all that." And then she showed him a picture that we put up that night of the walk, so everyone that was on it. And she said, "Where are you in this picture?" So straight away she knew that he wasn't there. But yeah, funny enough, he's now one of the walk leaders on two of our walks, and it just shows you that someone that was hesitant at the beginning on coming down is now pivotal and just a real great asset to the group. And just imagine, I can't imagine him not coming or getting involved now. He's welcoming new lads every week, and he's a really important lad. But when he told me that story, I thought it was really funny.
Mm. So what type of advice would you give to any man struggling with their mental health?
Well, going back to what I said about joining the group, I think that initial point of when you realise you need that support that's the key moment. So if you need real quick support and you need more professional support, go to those professional bodies straight away. and get in contact with them. There are people out there. You're never alone in your struggles. There's a lot of services out there that can help you. If it's a little bit like less of an issue, and not, you're more than welcome to come to any of our stuff, which we deal with just the more lenient stuff, the lighter stuff, if you can say it that way. We don't deal with sort of complex needs. But anyone's welcome on our walks literally on the day that they happen, so you don't need to book or anything like that. But yeah, if it's anything serious, definitely reach out to those professional services.
And now, really, the last question. If you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say to your younger self?
Never give up. I guess it's a real easy one to say, but I think I'm 35 now, and I think the past year of my life has been, or past 2 years, I guess, when I started this group, it's been the only part of my life where I've really felt really content and happy. Before that, it was very much I would try something, I would give up, and I would get disheartened about it. And I think very rarely our life goes in a straight line. There's always a knockback or a left turn or a right turn. Sometimes we go backwards, you have to go over an hill, or whatever it may be. But life has a funny way of sorting itself out in the end. And I feel like I'm exactly in the place I need to be right now. So I'll definitely say don't give up.
Well, thank you, Scott, for joining us today and sharing your inspirational story and wisdom with our listeners.
No problem. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. And the last message for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tune in next week for a new inspirational episode of The Career Changers. Thank you.